Hello.
No longer muted. All right, we're back, baby. All right, NFL kickoff day, night, week. We're officially here. The grind is over. 8:30 p.m. Thursday, September 5th. It's game time.
Who?
We officially start the season back up. Baltimore Ravens and Lamar Jackson going into Kansas City, not Kansas, Missouri, going into Kansas City and taking on the defending champs. And Flex has a parlay, or we're gonna talk out a parlay. So you like the Chiefs, right? There's a lot of noise surrounding people and how they like Baltimore in this game, but I am with you. I'm with you on the Chiefs side.
Yeah. Anytime you hear that, like you hear a lot of like commotion going towards, and it just kind of seems like people want to, snowball and kind of, go, go with the trendy pick, But I don't know. It's still the Chiefs. I don't see them dropping 2 years in a row, home opener. They lost last year to the Lions. I don't see it
And they
two
should have
times in a
won
row.
that one if not for Kadarius Toney. If we're being serious,
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's Kadarius Toney literally dropping a ball that ends up being a gifted, pick six to the Lions is really what kind of turned that game. So,
Yeah,
and Kadarius
and
Toney, the without a team, Kadarius Toney, right? He's not.
that's what
He's
I was
he's
gonna say. They don't
unemployed at
have
the
to.
moment, right?
They don't have to worry about that this year.
Yeah, maybe he can go. Maybe he's gonna play for the UFL or something.
No.
Number one
I
pick in
mean,
the UFL next year. And you said you had some anytime TD parlay investment, right?
yeah, I like a lot. Actually, I think I like. There's three guys I really like. If I'm gonna go over the 250 threshold, I like Xavier Worthy. I could see them kind of maybe even start the game off with a something to get the speedster rookie involved. Um, I like obviously Pacheco or Kelsey. I don't think you could go wrong with either. I mean, obviously, you know, you can if one of them over the other. But I'm going by, in the red zone, it's probably going to be either one of those two. And on the other side, I like Mark Andrews. I think it's excellent play in terms of once they get down there, they're probably going to think it's going to be the Derrick Henry show, and you know that's Mark Andrews is Lamar Jackson's guy. So I
Yeah,
can
he
see them
is.
getting, yeah, I can see them getting Derrick Henry a touchdown, but I feel like that's exactly what they want you to think.
Ah, the classic. What they want you to think.
Switcheroo.
Now, is DraftKings what are they offering today? As far is to are they doing a no sweat same game, or is that
They got a
a no?
couple no, they got a couple no sweats, and they got a 50% boost at four, like a four or more.
All right, so I'm
Um,
gonna I'm gonna do I'm gonna use this boost. I'm looking at the boost right now. Four legs boosted. I'm gonna go with I'm gonna go with no. So what do you have again? You have did you take all three, Andrews, Kelsey, and
no,
Henry?
I took no, I didn't take Henry. Pacheco, Mark Andrews, the Chiefs, and Patrick Mahomes over 250. Uh, that secondary, I feel like
So
obviously
you
they
ended
do
up
have.
not doing the Henry Kelsey.
No, no, I didn't.
All right, so that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna do a Henry Kelsey anytime touchdown both. I'm gonna do a Chiefs money line and What is what's Xavier Worthy's yardage and receptions prop at? Actually, you know what?
I think it was up 25.
I think. You know what? I'm gonna just do the under.
The under on the game?
Yeah. Yeah,
Think
fuck
so?
it. I feel like if I do the under with those 2 anytime touchdowns, it's gonna boost. It's gonna really give me some good odds. Yeah, right now I'm looking at I'm looking at 24-1 if I do those 4.
With
24
what?
to
What was that?
1 if
Derrick
I do
Henry.
Henry and Kelsey TDs, Kansas City money line, and the under 46. Actually, I think I'm gonna do an all under. I'm gonna bump it up to 48.5. And I'm going to boost that. 48.5 under. That gives me, those 4 legs give me odds of 18-1, plus 1,800. I'm going to use the 50% boost, get us to 27-1. That's going to be my play of the day.
Let's see. Total.
Squeeze
So
that one in there before the
48.
kickoff starts. Yeah, the only reason I immediately instinctively went to the under is just because I want to see, I'm interested in if the primetime unders trend that we cashed on quite a bit last season is going to hold. Because if you remember, primetime unders were damn near undefeated for like the first 2/3 of the season, and then it felt like the last couple of weeks it was all overs.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that trend is going to hold, but I don't know. I feel like the primetime unders trend has been an annual tradition that dates back a couple of years. So I'm going to stick with it until it is no longer bearing fruit. Plus, it's just a little flyer. We're not getting too crazy.
Yeah.
But anyway, we are back.
Something to wean you in.
Yeah. Speaking of being back, so we've had a couple fantasy drafts, and I just want to recap or talk out a couple of the fantasy drafts because you had me dying laughing yesterday when we were both sharing our draft horror stories, I guess, if you want to say. Because man, when I look back at my team and I'm like, man, I really real choke job in some of the guys that I ended up just freezing up and taking. I just feel so foolish, but what can you do? I was surprised because I was in the draft after we had our draft. I was in the other draft with Word Life, who he is now gone. He's gone rogue. He's not on the show.
Life.
He's got his own fantasy league. He's doing his own thing. He's probably doing his own podcast as we speak.
Yoko Ono.
But we were doing. I joined the draft that he invited me to, and. Listen, I don't want to seem like a fantasy betting snob, but all I'll say is it doesn't take long when you go into a fantasy draft with people who you don't really know you don't know who's in there, It doesn't take long before you can look and be like, okay, these people are not serious. Like, you can tell very early on with some of the picks that get made. Like, okay, they're not taking this serious. Like,
what is something that stuck out in you?
Oh man, where do I begin? All right, so I don't know. I was kind of I'm gonna be honest with you. I was kind of half checked out. I was watching the Indiana Fever and the Los Angeles Sparks at the same time. So I was kind of half checked in, half checked out with the draft. I was just really waiting for my pick. But I did see, and please don't take offense to this. This is no slight to the Jets. But there is no one has any business drafting Aaron Rodgers anywhere earlier than a 10th round.
Well, I saw that happened in yours as well.
Did it?
Yeah.
So people are not they're not serious.
I was like, oh, hold on, this because I saw that and I was like, hold on. Yes, this he had. I think he had. He drafted Tyler Conklin.
Was he you? Who is this person?
No, no, not even
Was
me.
this George?
Not even. I don't know. Maybe it was George. I think it might have been George actually.
There you
Now that
go.
you
That
say,
explains it.
because I did check it, and I was like, "Yo,"
George, for those who don't know, George, heavy Jets fan, so that would explain the Tyler Conklin.
and Word Life's brother.
Yes, and Word Life's brother. So that would explain the Tyler Conklin. But here's the thing: I don't ever jump people. Draft who you want. Like when people be like, "Oh, why'd you pick so and so one? That's way too high." Like to me, it's only way too high if you're just going obscenely too high in terms of rounds. Like if you take somebody one overall who was slated to go 12th or 15th, I have no beef with that because if you knew you weren't going to get him in the next round and you want to have him, then take
Yeah.
him. I don't care. But Rodgers, you did not have. No one has to draft. No one was taking Rodgers that early. Like that's my thing. Like even if you desperately want to have a player on your team, like if you're just you're just drafting because you just want to play around, that's cool. But I'm just saying, like right away when people are when they're playing around or when they're being serious.
Actually, no, it wasn't George. It was let's see,
Oh
the guy
wow,
who I'm
falsely accused. Oh man, I'm sorry. I
no.
apologize.
Yeah, this guy it was
But yeah,
wait,
no,
hold on.
some
Is this
people
Cheeks?
get crazy. Well, that's the other thing. They I don't know they never have their name. They like I
Yeah.
thought I know everybody's aliases. I guess I'm not in the loop enough to know everybody's aliases. They be having
Mm,
names that I never heard of, and then the team
mm-hmm.
name just be with some numbers. I don't know what's
Mm-hmm.
happening.
Yeah, but some foolishness was there where I mean,
Yeah,
I
there be
was I,
some wacky tobackies with these pigs.
like because of that, the speed of the 30 seconds. That's a high pressure situation.
No, but I love it though. I love it.
This is almost like when they say about like all the police shootings. That you have a you know you know how everybody says like 30. When you're picking fantasy players with less than 30 seconds, it's exactly like in a situation where a police officer has to decide whether or not to shoot.
Exactly.
So and I'm
No
just
better comp than that.
yeah, exactly. So it's like you either
That's like
you
when
gotta
David Blatt compared coaching LeBron and the Cavs to being a fighter pilot. That's what that reminds
I
me of.
mean, it's all three. I mean, all three are valid, comps to each other. I don't see
Yeah,
why
so
anybody would be
let me
offended
look
by
at this
that.
crazy draft. Let me see what happened here because I was like I said I was half. Oh, and you also know who's being serious and who's not when they propose you some cockamamie trades that you'd be like, come on,
No,
man,
yeah, yeah, no.
don't disrespect me like that.
Don't insult me. Don't insult my
Yeah.
intelligence with this.
But you know what I do with those trade or offers? I never decline them. I let them sit there. Let them
Oh, I
sit
do
there
the same.
forever.
I do
Yeah,
the same thing.
that's how you
Because
got to do it.
yeah, because then I wait to see if like something ridiculous
So, oh,
happens.
that's the best. Somebody gets hurt or something like
Yeah,
that, and
that's
they
a
forget that they
comeuppance right
left that
there.
shit there. You get them? Oh man, that's the best. Yeah, that's that money right there. All right, so let me look at because I think I did, and I realized that I guess it makes sense that you're drafting a lot of the same people because you have them all kind of valued the same. Did you do? How many leagues are you in this year?
I'm down to three. Three, yes.
Are any of your leagues salary cap auction or are they all snake draft?
No, no, no. I don't want to deal with any of that stuff. I have enough to deal with.
Yeah, so I'm in an auction salary cap league this year, and I haven't done one in a couple of years. And again, the one thing that I don't like I like kind of having it's the cool thing about doing the salary cap auctions type draft is that there's no restrictions on who you can get, right? If you really want to have,
You just have
if
to
you really want
allocate your
Christian
funds.
McCaffrey and you don't have the first round pick, you're probably not going to, you don't have the first pick overall, you're probably not going to get him in a snake draft. But
Mhm.
there's nobody that's unattainable. But I like rapid fire, baby. These fucking auctions take forever. Oh
No,
my
absolutely
God.
not.
I'm sitting, because you got to sit there, like, it's like it's like two drafts, because there's a clock timer, the whatever 15 20 seconds for the next person to put somebody up for auction. So you're already adding a little extra time. Like, I don't even know why they do it that way. The auction draft should just be how whatever the queue is in terms of the rankings, just slot these motherfuckers in right away, because
Yeah.
I got caught in this auction draft. Not only did I got to wait 15 seconds for the next person to put them up for auction and decide, oh, do I want to put up McCaffrey or do I want to put to CeeDee Lamb first? Who cares? It's all the same. But not only that, we got jokers in the auction wasting time. Let's put up 49ers D first for auction.
Oh, come on.
I'm like, come on, bro. What are we doing here, man? What are we doing? I gotta sit
No,
here and wait for you to
no,
get,
that's not. That's not.
do
That's not
foolishness like
serious.
this. Yeah, I didn't love that. But, and the funny thing was, I felt like my auction draft roster ended up being very similar to my snake draft roster. I feel like it all ends up being the same.
You know,
But
because at the end of the day, it's all weighted on expectations. You know.
exactly. The only difference is that, like, for instance, so in this auction draft, I actually ended up getting Christian McCaffrey and Saquon Barkley, which I feel like highly unlikely that you would get those two in a remotely serious snake draft scenario.
Yes. First
But
penalty
anyhow,
of the season.
so we have fantasy drafts are all pretty much done. The rankings are all pretty much done. Now we just get ready for now we have our first game of the season. Chiefs and the
KICKOFF.
Chiefs
You have
and
Ronnie
the Ravens.
Stanley with the designation of first penalty of the year.
Good for him. I wonder if that had to have been something that if you walked into a walked into a sports book, you probably bet on
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Now I wonder, because that's the
Ronnie
other thing
Stanley
that I really
looks like
was,
his name is Alfonso.
Ribeiro. I wanted to put in, like, I wanted to make sure I get all my futures bets in, because that's the one thing that, like, I guess it's not a sad thing, but it's like today was like, as of whatever 10 minutes ago, futures are done. I mean, not that they're all done, but all of the excitement of, like, because, you know, I like to parlay futures that I don't even remember I did them. Like, I'll be, you know, high and drunk, and I'll put, yo, you know what's going to happen? The Liberty are going to win the championship. The Jets are going to win the Super Bowl. The fucking, like, and I'll parlay some shit
Like a
that, you know,
scratch-off.
in 5 months, I'll be like, yo, if the Knicks get to the fucking Eastern Conference Finals, I'm going to fucking win 5,000 grand from fucking, you know, from a 50-cent bet. That shit's exciting, but that's all done now. That's because the reason why I say that is because I had put together a bunch of different combinations of NFL division winners. So I had I forgot what I did, but I did something like last week right before college football started. I was like, I'm gonna put together like two NFL division winners, two NCAA conference champions, two baseball division winners, and I did this whole thing. I was real excited about it, but anyway, it's all dead now, and now it's just a week to week proposition for the
Now
most part.
what you see is what you get.
That's it. And speaking of week to week, we're changing up the slight changes to the week to week picks competition, rather than fucking with the lines and trying to avoid the pushes like we have done for the last couple of years. We're gonna accept the push. If a line is even and there's no hook, no half, we're just gonna keep it how it is. We have been adding a half point just to kind of avoid a push and keep it flowing, but we're not gonna add the half point. We're just gonna give the half point allocations. So if it's a 3-point pick, 3-point pick pushes is a 1.5. 2-point pick pushes will be a 1 point, and a 1-point pick pushes will be a half point. Now, have you thought, how ready are you to make the weekly picks for week 1?
Never been more ready. I
Excellent.
stay ready.
That's what I
You don't
like
have
to
to
hear.
get ready. You know what I'm saying?
That's what I like to hear. Unfortunately, I cannot say the same. I feel ready, but I don't feel confident.
It's
Which
funny you
makes
say that
me
because
feel not
the
ready.
ones that the three that I do have, I feel pretty confident in. I also have an outside looking in bet because I
Oh
picked
wow!
four.
Oh, a live
I
bet.
picked. I have four on the board, um, and I'm pretty confident in all of them.
Wow,
Um,
nice.
yeah. But outside of those, I don't feel very confident in any other game. So
You know
so
what
it
I
was
think it
it
might
was.
be? I think it might be that, like, when I first started trying to go through the games, look at the spreads, and look at how I felt about all the teams and where I was going, I felt like I immediately identified a few that I liked, and I was like, okay, I'm confident. And I feel like it's just been such a build up as the weeks have gone on. I keep thinking, I'm watching the lines move. I'm thinking about
No,
so and
yeah,
so. Is this guy injured? Is this guy?
you're
And I'm
double
like,
thinking.
well, maybe I got this wrong. You know.
Yeah, that's what happens. You go in early, you
Jamar
put the
Chase,
blind.
is he gonna play? Is he not? Are
Yeah,
we getting Trent
yeah.
Williams? Is it not gonna be true? You know, they're not getting any of this stuff until the just for the Niners Jets game alone.
Hmm.
There were 3 very important shoes that were either going to drop or weren't. As I've been
Hmm.
kind of looking at this game for the last couple of weeks, and I was kind of like under the like. I think everybody for a while was under the impression Brandon Ayuk was getting traded, that he was not going to
Yeah.
be available with
No,
the
that was
49ers.
almost a done. That was almost a done deal.
I mean, they practically
Supposedly.
it was. I think there were a few like credible people that had like announced it as if it was a done deal.
Yeah,
Like I feel like there were a couple
100%.
of I don't know if they were like beat writers or something that kind of, because I remember people being like, "Yo, the trade is done," but and then it didn't
Yeah.
be. Then it wasn't done, and now Ayuk is his business as usual back with the Niners.
Hmm.
So. Which also changed. Speaking of fantasy, I
Business
feel like that really changed
IU
the lighter.
shoe.
Fantastic. But I feel like that changed a lot of people's because, like, back a couple of weeks ago when I was on here and I gave my fantasy wide receivers that are unlikely to be on my team, Brandon Ayuk was near the top of the list just because I was like, until he is somewhere, I'm not going to touch him, and then he ends up resigning, and then I'm like, the way I valued him in fantasy turns out to be way different. So,
Yeah,
but
and funny enough, I ended up with Ayuk auto drafted on in your league. So
I did see
originally
that.
I wasn't a fan, but
And didn't you draft
we back.
the? It's funny because I was thinking if I could put together the all flex fantasy team, who would it be?
Mm.
And I mean that like jokingly, like people that you wouldn't want. And I was
Ah,
thinking about like
the no flex zone.
the no. Incredible. Perfect. Yes, the no flex zone. And I was like, I know Diggs would be on the team. I know that. No Diggs would be there.
Diggs,
But you
Diggs,
didn't end up.
Pickens.
He's not someone you ended up auto drafting, right?
No. Thank God.
Okay.
You got the real captain of the Texans, wide receiver, Nico Collins. That was auto drafted as well.
Yeah, he was
What are
my
you gonna
number
do?
one. He was number one on the list. Which I don't. I still don't really know how to look at that. I really don't know how to look at the Texans, man, because I feel like it's a case where, and I feel like there's a couple of teams like this that I'm kind of viewing like this at least for the first couple of weeks of the season, where I feel like it's like a team that my immediate reflex reaction is, whoa, overhyped.
Hmm.
But then when I look into it and I dig into it, like, I'm like, you know what? My reflex, my instinct is to go overhype. But if I look at it, there is some legitimacy and there is some valid there are valid reasons for the hype.
Yeah.
I look at the Texans that way. Off the top of my head, I look at the Bears that way too, because I was
Mm.
like, the Bears, I feel like very, very quickly became everybody's darling on the NFC side. Caleb Williams, oh my God, he looks amazing in preseason, and they added all these pieces, and they re-signed DJ Moore, blah, blah, blah. And right away, I was just kind of like, first of all, the pieces that they added individually are all dudes that I have questions about. Like, they didn't add anybody who I'm immediately like, oh man, they really got themselves a stud. Like Keenan Allen, I feel like is a could be kind of dude. Yeah. And you know, if he could be like, those are always
well,
the
thing is,
the
with
prefixes.
Him, nothing. The thing with him, it's like it doesn't. He doesn't win with being dynamic. You know, like you kind of think, oh, there we go, the Derrick Henry touchdown. That's the first touchdown of the NFL season for you.
Beautiful.
But
we're one leg there, one leg in.
Yes, with like I was saying, with somebody like Keenan Allen, it's not like his game was an Odell Beckham like game, to where at his age you can start to project.
Yeah,
you can still start to project a decline, but that's something where he can still kind of. You know, like the Steph Curry, where like, you know, he's getting older, but it's not like when Allen Iverson got older, where he can't go to the paint and take all that contact, as opposed to shooting jumpers from 30, 35 feet. You know, that's kind of something that you don't have to worry about all the periphery.
Yeah, and it's funny because like he has a game that you would assume. The weird thing about Keenan Allen is the fact that his game is not predicated on necessarily being overly athletic or overly explosive. Why is this motherfucker always hurt? When I think of dudes that are getting hurt like that, especially with the injuries he's had, which is, I feel like he's had a lot of hamstring situations. I think of dudes whose game is speed.
Yeah, but I mean, when
and
you think about it, I get
for a dude who, like, you would think, like, his game is the type of game I feel like he should be able to. A hamstring strain shouldn't even really hurt his game that much. I mean,
well,
obviously,
but the thing is, in the short space, in the spaces that he's working with, when there's like, I guess everything it's a little bit more condensed when he's working in the middle of the field, and those subtle movements and those, you know, like that. That's where you hurt, like, and you get soft tissue injuries. It's that quick rip, you know. That's why they say that, you know, Giancarlo Stanton, you know, he can't run to first, or he can't run the bases quick.
That is such a underreported phenomenon. What the Yankees are trying to sell people on, what their whole strength and conditioning policy is. I don't know what baseball is doing with Giancarlo Stanton and resting these dudes. Like, listen, like the guy that,
but I mean,
his body is just so explosive that, you know, they make it seem like if he does a hard sprint to first base, the dude's gonna just literally go off like a grenade, and his whole body's gonna explode.
Because that's the thing. It's the stop and start. It's not the acceleration. It's not the gradual acceleration. It's the stop and start. It's the difference between like a gas engine, where you hit the throttle and you're slowly getting up to high speed. Where you get in trouble is when you have the electric the electric car, where stop and start. You know what I'm saying? And that's where everything pulls. So, I mean, I can see why that's why it's been an issue for Keenan Allen in that area, even though you would think that the way that he wins kind of isn't, you would think that his game is conducive to maintain it being healthy and holding on to his skill set, like holding on to his level of skills. But I guess it does make sense when you're doing all the, you know, banging off, a linebacker and kind of like working your way into, you know, the cushions and all that stuff. So, I mean, I get it, but
Yeah. And then, so they added Keenan. So the Bears add Keenan Allen. They add, well, I guess they added DJ Moore at the beginning of last season, but they signed him long term, and they draft Rome Odunze, and they add DeAndre Swift. And these are all people who I have mad questions about. Like, I have a lot of questions about. I don't really know. I still feel like I don't know how good DJ Moore really is.
Yeah, yeah. I'm with you on that, but the thing is, I feel like he's the more he was. I feel like he was Garrett Wilson a couple years before Garrett Wilson, where no, not in terms of like the skill level and the way they play. My, I'm saying more the way that they've been put at all the odds have been stacked against them being successful at wide receiver based on the quarterbacks that they've had. So, think
Whoa, what do
about
you mean? Garrett Wilson's had great quarterbacks. Just ignore that. Go ahead. Sorry.
What are you talking about? I'm, which, by the way, is no longer a just so for future context.
Yes. Now, speaking of, did Zach make the final cuts for the Broncos? They carrying five quarterbacks?
Yeah, I would have seen.
I mean,
three
quarterbacks.
Yeah, because he's there's no way that Sean Payton is going to admit that he can't fix a quarterback. So
yeah,
that he was pretty much.
Speaking of the Bears, did you see the last episode of Hard Knocks? Because I thought they were gonna lie to one of the quarterbacks. Because there was a moment where he's telling the guy, I can't remember if he was telling Brett Rippon or this other, what was his name, Reed?
Austin Reed?
Austin Reed, yeah. I can't remember which of them they were talking to, but he was like, yeah, we're only keeping 2 quarterbacks. But, if we were keeping 3, it would have been you. I thought they were going to immediately show him talking to the other quarterback and saying the exact same shit. Like, I was waiting for that, but it didn't happen. So I'm like, all right, I guess it's, my cynicism is getting the best of me. But I thought, it would just seem like it was perfectly queuing up for him to be like, oh, man, we wish we could have kept you. If we were keeping 3, would have been you. And then, the next quarterback comes in and gives him the same bullshit line.
Well, that would have been a bad look. That having that then it come out or whatever, but because what's it called, because what ended up happening, which one ended up signing with the was it with the Vikings
practice squad? Well, so Rippon, no, I think Rippon ends up signing with the Vikings too.
Okay,
because they said because they said he left and he got in the car, and it was funny because it was such an interesting comparison.
I thought it was going to be the other way around. Jesus. Oh, there's Worthy.
He scored, or he just caught a pass?
No, he got a touchdown.
Nice. They it was such an interesting contrast between the rookie and how he absorbed not making the 53 versus Brett Rippon, who has not made a 53 so many times in the past that he's like, he's so
flippant about it.
Yeah, like he's like, yeah, no, I got you. Yeah, I'm going to talk to the Vikings, and I'll just find my next spot. He just knew, we keep it moving. Or the other dude, not that he was broken up about it. He was very appreciative or whatever, but you could tell it was just such a contrast. But yeah, I think you're right. I think Rippon ended up going with which also was weird to me because the politics that go into so much of what how some of these players get their opportunities is fascinating to me, because I'm like, Brett Rippon, a guy who I feel like has been all over the place on so many different teams. Speaking of Sean Payton, that's the place where he was last, was with the Broncos. But I don't think Sean Payton was there. I don't remember. I know he was there too. I know when the Jets beat the Broncos 2 years ago, he was the starting quarterback. I remember that.
Yeah.
But that wasn't Sean Payton, and I don't know where he was last year. I don't think he was still.
And
there.
I don't know
think he was with the Bears last year, actually. But
I don't know if he at some point he signed with the with the Jets practice squad, or they tried
Oh
to,
yeah,
or
he was with the
okay,
Jets last year. That's what he
okay,
was. Yeah,
yeah,
because
that's
I
right.
remember there was the
But he's
debate
been
of
so
whether or
many
not it was going to
places.
be him or Boyle or who was going to be the next guy.
Yeah, he's been so many places, and I've been hearing about him for so long that like I kind of confused where he, and also the amount of quarterbacks that were mentioned and signed
Yeah, it
and
just
thrown off
the
of the
the
Jets. It kind
whole
of
the whole between the Jets and just all the teams in the league, all these dudes that just keep bouncing around. But I just feel like it's weird. Like if O'Connell, the head coach of the Vikings, if he knows that Rippon is a guy, no training camp, if he doesn't land with his team, we're gonna bring him in.
mhm.
Why isn't he just there? Like Brett Rippon was not. It's not like he was competing for a starting job or a better position with the Bears. Like that shit was just
well
weird to me.
well because I mean the thing is it's like they with stuff like that I feel like they give him the opportunity to maybe lock on to a 53-man roster, and you don't know if the team, if
So
their
he's not with the
philosophy.
53 with the Vikings. He's practice squad.
I believe so, because unless they claimed him off the waivers, I feel like it was like they called him and he was like, all right, sign with them, even though the Bears
Yeah,
yeah, I think the Bears offered offered them the same thing. But
I would love
speaking
to be a
of the
fucking NFL practice squad player, man. I feel like that's
s-
sweet
yeah,
gig.
but speaking of the quarterbacks and hard knocks, um I had to actually, because I started watching it the other night and I stopped it. I wasn't really fully paying attention because it was doing kind of like one of those, the season finales or series finales where they kind of try to button everything up
Yeah.
real quick and kind of, like I want to say, was it Game of, it might have been like Game of Thrones or I don't know. One of the recent series finales where everything they tried to tie up everything too quickly. So it started giving me the vibe with like the Ian, what was it, Ian Cunningham? What was his name?
Who, the running back or the safety?
Uh, yeah, the running back.
Um, yeah, I know who you're talking about. Ian. I don't know why I want to say Wheeler. No,
You might be
Ian.
right.
I can't remember, but I know exactly what you're talking about. The dude who tore
Okay,
his
but I
ACL.
mean,
Yo,
yeah,
speaking of
with
that, that was one thing that I didn't talk about last time when we were talking about Hard Knocks. I don't know if you got the same vibe from me or as me. Something about that running back coach was rubbing me the wrong way. Like the way he was specifically, I was just remembered it because we are talking about this dude Ian, because he's the one that is trying to become a doctor, right?
yes.
And I felt like this dude was overly, like he was fucking with him during some of the drills and like just real hard on this kid.
Oh,
And
Chad Morton.
yes, and I have no issue with coaches being hard on players, but it very much, and again, this might just be the way that they cut it with Hard Knocks, I don't know, but it just gave off the vibe like he was just, it almost gave off the vibe like he's riding this dude because he's the smart guy. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like because he's the, oh, I'm trying to be a doctor, that he was like going over the top to try to like, you know, like, I don't know, dominate him. I don't know. It was
Yeah,
weird.
yeah. Like, it kind of felt like that almost with Velas Jones as well,
Yeah.
where they
Yep.
were kind of just like they were kind of like telling him, as opposed to like being like, yo, we see this in you. It was like, you can do this, you know what I'm saying? And you've been doing this, so we're gonna have you do this. It was like almost like, yo,
Yeah. Yeah.
like, I know you guys are the coaches and everything like that. And like, when you get former players, I guess Chad Morton, a former player, kind of like, I guess he kind of, it might also be kind of like the thing that's wrong with former players where sometimes how they were coached, they think that they should coach forward.
Yeah.
And I don't know. He did. There was a couple where he kind of like he did kind of rub me the wrong way as well. Um,
Yeah, I mean nothing too
But
crazy, but it was just something I made a mental note of where
yeah,
I was just
yeah, it
kind
was
of
like
like they
something
just
like
kept on
it
showing him like just almost like borderline bullying this nigga. And again, I have no issue with coaches cracking the whip on the players, and it just felt very much
singled out.
almost personal. Yeah, like it was like
Yeah,
very much a issue with this one kid. And then like they kept on offsetting it with, oh yeah, I love the kid, I'm rooting for him, blah 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 blah,
yeah, yeah.
whatever.
It's like,
How did you feel about when they showed when this dude had to leave the room when he cut homeboy who had the bike accident, I forget his name, that
when he
when
was
Poles when he
crying,
brought who
when he was crying.
yeah. But he left. He had to leave. Like he calls him in. He sees him, and he like he walks away. He has
Yeah,
to take a moment. He leaves him sitting there by himself. The Hard Knocks cameras are showing him, and
yeah,
you
yeah,
kind of hear him off camera wiping his tears. He comes back in. And he comes back in, and he sits this way. Can't even look him in the. Can't even
yeah,
face him.
yeah.
I was like, what?
I
This is
mean,
a little
I
performative
like.
here. Come on.
Yeah, yeah, I do like the bit of emotion because like
No, I did like it, and I like
I
I'm just fucking around when I say it was performative. I didn't feel like it was fake. I felt like it was authentic, and I did
but
feel I came away from that liking Ryan Poles. I just thought it was a little
I
funny.
did too, but at the same time it's like you're also doing this to a whole bunch of other
That was the
guys.
thing. I was kind of like, my nigga, how many of these have you done? Like
Yeah,
this is not your
yeah.
first rodeo. Like I was like,
This is his
I
third. I
again,
think
I
this
didn't
is his
want to
third year on the
question it
job.
like it wasn't authentic, but I did. There was a bit of me that thought to myself like, if I'm taking this at face value, this kid must really be a special kind of personality because
Yeah.
this is clearly not his first time, having a conversation with a player this season, let alone in years past. The fact that he was
Well,
that broken up about it, I was like, wow, this motherfucker. And
well,
then it
I
kind of
mean,
made me feel like, yo, if you're that broken up about it, you couldn't find a way to keep this nigga on the team?
yeah. Give him a, what I'm saying, like an assistant, job, keep him around and stuff like that. But whatever. I mean, it
Listen,
kind of it, it.
I'm sure that if I pull up the Bears 53 man right now, I could give you at least 5 bums that they could cut if he really was weeping over cutting this nigga. Like, I
Yeah.
don't know.
What it kind of like reminded me like when they like when the Jets drafted Quantez Stiggers in the fifth round. Like you saw a lot of that, they were all broken up. Like they were literally calling him, and like even the guy, there was one guy, I forget what his role was. I think it was head of security or something like that. And he was calling him like he was talking to him, like they passed the phone around, and he started like getting choked up as well. I think a lot of it has to do with like sometimes like the how personal you get with a person. Like some of these scouts, because you got to remember, like some of these scouts, they're the reason why some of these players are on the team. Like
Yeah.
when you get down to like the fifth, sixth, seventh undrafted free agents, the reason why a lot of these players are in the building is because of the personal connection, or one of the scouts really liked a certain person, as opposed to like, oh, everybody was on board with selecting this guy. So I feel like it's just like maybe Ryan Poles had like a direct kind of like, felt like it, he's the one who brought him here. And, those little type of like side interactions where we don't really see or don't know about. But it's like the same thing when something happens to somebody or something happens to an athlete where you think you know them more than you actually do. And even though people go through stuff every day, certain ones hit closer to home based on how close or like the type of relationship you had with that person.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. You know what the interesting thing is? I feel like what you, the point you, it's so true what you're describing in terms of the unique connection that the scouts have, the unique connection and the unique investment that the scouts have with certain players that can be right there on the cusp of making the team or not making the team. And that is something that I'm surprised that the off-season Hard Knocks did not do more with, because that was something that I was actually thinking about while watching the off-season Hard Knocks. There was when they were doing when they had that scene with the Giants joint where they had all the scouts that went out to dinner together. Do you remember that? I
No,
I
I'm not
remember
sure.
when they showed that scene with the scouts all going out. There was one female scout that she was featured pretty prominently. They kept on showing her in her little interviews and her quotes.
Oh, wait, and
And
this is in which one?
in the Giants joint, in the
Oh, in the
Giants
Giants one.
off-season
Yes.
joint.
No, I do remember that.
Yeah, and then they went out to dinner, and I was very interested in that. And I feel like they did it for one episode, and then they never went back to it. And I was like, man, I feel like they have, at least for me, I feel like I always have to remind myself that, especially when it comes to sports stuff, like what would quench our thirst as sports fans or as football fans, what we would find interesting, may not necessarily be what the greater casual public would find interesting. So I kind of got to give them a little bit of a break if they don't kind of give that a ton of airtime. But I'm like, yo, I feel like there's such a human interest story to be told there between the scouts and the kind of the investment that they have and some of the players that they kind of that they bring, and that they're kind of like the genesis of their opportunity. Like, there's such a story there. And it was funny because that's something that I think about a lot that I have yet to really see anybody depict, because I was thinking about it in regard to a GM. Specifically, I was thinking about it with Joe Douglas, but just general GMs, because I was thinking about Joe Douglas and where he has been exceedingly great as a GM and where he has not been as strong as a GM. And he has obviously got a great system when it comes to scouting talent, particularly in college. And I was thinking I would love to see that whole process, like how a GM who identifies really good college talent. Obviously, they're not doing it by themselves. Obviously, they have a team of scouts who they trust to relay the information. I don't know to what degree each GM is hands-on.
Well, I
And
mean, just think about how far and how many players there are, and
well,
it's
exactly. That's
almost
what I'm
like you
saying. I
have
don't
to
assume that Joe Douglas is, he's
you have to
personally
get a little
scouting
tip.
everybody.
They
But
take
I'm
it
like,
from
I
there.
would love to see. I would like to see them go more into that. I'm like, that would be interesting to see, like, who was the scout who really sold Joe Douglas on Sauce Gardner, or who was the scout who, whether it's a diamond in the rough or a guy like
Michael Carter,
the
Michael Carter the
Cardinal,
second.
Michael Cardinal.
No, the
Is he
second one,
still a
the other one.
Cardinal?
No, I think he got cut, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, you're
But
talking about defense, Michael Carter.
yeah, but it's funny because he was so like, for example, one of the guys that I followed during the draft season, Connor Rogers, he actually said, he was like, this is a guy that I didn't even have in my top 300 or 250 that he didn't scout or whatever. And during the actual draft, because remember that they drafted Michael Carter, the running back, in the 4th round. In the 5th round, they drafted Michael Carter the second from Duke, defensive back. They actually, on ESPN, it was either ESPN or NFL Network, they started airing highlights of Michael Carter, the running back, even though he had already been selected. So that's kind of like, that's how little known he kind of was. And if you saw that this week, he signed a contract extension to become the highest paid slot corner in the league. So it's like going from not being listed in a top 300 of a decently prominent NFL, not I don't want to say scout, but draft pundit. Let's use that term, to becoming to being a 5th round pick, and also becoming and also being confused for another player, and becoming the highest paid slot corner. It's like, what qualities did they find in that person that kind of projected that like they were going to be the type of worker or the type of person. Because the other thing is, it's like with the draft, sometimes like when I'm looking at, I'm a big draft fan, obviously, that, much to your dismay. When you're looking through lists and you're like, oh shit, Michael Hall, the Jets need an interior defensive lineman. Michael Hall, he still has a freaking second round grade. How come they're not drafting him? And then, a couple weeks ago, you see Michael Hall arrested for domestic battery. He's been placed on the commissioner's list. It's like, that's all of the shit that you have to kind of be aware of, to where when you're yelling at the TV, this idiot, why aren't you picking this guy? Or this guy, or the Browns won the draft.
Yeah.
They got an A+. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's the type of stuff that you don't see. And like, to your point, that would be interesting to see, like, how deep in the dirt you have to get to uncover some of these diamonds.
Yeah, I think the closest we got to that was the fucking journalism, the journalism investigation detective work that you were doing, the color coding the Giants draft board and figuring out, like, that's the closest we got to that. We should fucking do our own show just based off of the little nuggets that we can acquire, put it all together and have a whole fucking how we theorize that they arrived at these draft picks based off of the information we have. But anyway, let's not do too. I mean, the football season started.
Real
we
quick,
don't want to get too deep in the weeds here.
Real quick, when I was watching the Hard Knocks, I stopped it after it got a little dry. Then I heard on the Michael K show that Joe Shane was up to his shenanigans again.
Wow, what did he do?
My guy
actually, Joe Shane. We can.
I ended up hitting play because I was like, oh, I missed that. But was that because
during the Hard Knocks? Yeah.
During the Hard Knocks,
I thought.
Yeah, because I was like, did I miss this? And like, did it go over my head when I hit play? 2 minutes later, and he's at one of these college games, asking or telling Ryan Poles, must be nice not having to scout, quarterbacks. Poles put the quarterback part in there, but solidified. No, but I'm saying I didn't see it, and to not say, it wasn't Shane that directly said quarterbacks, but I don't know, man. I just feel like he's kind of like hedging his bet, making it seem like he tried everything not to, the Daniel Jones experiment has nothing to do with him. You know what I'm saying? So that was one of the things that popped up. Funny enough that it was the off season. This was like an off season type thing, event, and going from the Giants
to the Giants Hard Knocks though.
Yeah. No, because this was more recent. So
yeah.
But
I don't
interesting.
know. I think it'll be. I feel like the off season Hard Knocks was an interesting thing. I think they're going to continue to do it. I think that at first I was kind of skeptical. I didn't think there was going to be really anything there. And I feel like I was both wrong and right, because I feel like there wasn't anything there in terms of what they gave us. But with what they gave us, I feel like I was able to see the potential of what could be there. So it'll be interesting to see if they do it again next year. If they do it again next year, who the team is. And I wonder how that, because we've kind of become familiar with some of the, I don't know if it's the collectively bargained rules or wherever the rules are that dictate who and why a team is or isn't eligible to be on Hard Knocks. I don't know if that. I wonder if that applies to the off-season Hard Knocks too, or if there's a different rule. Like if I know there was like if you didn't make the playoffs and all this other shit, then you're eligible for Hard Knocks. I don't know if that applies to the off-season.
Yeah, maybe it's like a
Speaking of that,
loophole
when
to
does
get
the
more
in season
people.
start?
Well, I mean, I'm assuming it already started. They need how many camera crews following all these teams around?
Oh, that's right. They're doing the whole AFC North. I forgot about that. Yeah, they're gonna.
Yeah.
That's crazy, man. I don't like that. I mean, I don't want to be too judgmental on it. We'll see how it goes. Well, I'll watch it before I say I hate it. But
Mhm.
I just know that just based off of the last time I remember them doing more than one team for Hard Knocks, it was during the COVID year when they did Rams Chargers, and that was hilariously ridiculous. Like I just remember them because every year with Hard Knocks, the one of the main staples of Hard Knocks is the season starting or the camp starting, coach addressing the team, and then is
Uh,
you hear the dun 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 dun. Dun, 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 the fucking the beat start the Hard Knocks theme starts coming in as he's giving the speech, and then they
uh,
end the speech, and then roll credits. It
uh,
happens almost every Hard Knocks.
mm.
The Chargers Rams COVID Hard Knocks, they tried to find a way to do that, while my man, and I feel like low key this was part of the reason why he got fired. This guy, what was
Staley,
his name? Nah, my
Staley,
man, the guy who Staley took it over for.
uh, the black guy,
Yeah, what's my man's
Anthony
name?
Lynn.
Anthony Lynn. Yes, Anthony Lynn trying to deliver a Hard Knocks
No.
quality training camp hype up speech, standing over a laptop on Zoom, just did not hit. Did not work in any kind of way. It looked like a joke. And
I
maybe
mean,
I'm just scarred from that being the last time they did a dual team Hard Knocks, that I'm like, I have no use for this. Because I feel like if I remember correctly, they did a Anthony Lynn with the Zoom, but I feel for whatever reason I don't remember Sean McVay doing some corny Zoom shit. I think he
well, I
addressed the team
mean,
face to face.
yeah, because I think as we all know that some people took COVID a little bit more serious than others. So, I mean,
Yeah, but
I
I
could
mean, but essentially, I think the reason why they did them too, because they were
in the
both under the
same,
exact same rules in the same building,
yeah, yeah,
so there was
yeah.
really no way to kind of separate the two. But
And
maybe he
that was
did
when
do
they
it on
opened.
Zoom.
Did
I
they
just can't
open?
remember.
Was that the year that they opened the building there?
God, that's a good question. Maybe. I can't remember. I think they might have opened it the year prior, but now I can't remember. I don't know. The Anthony Lynn Chargers era is very forgettable,
Can you
and I feel like I
can you
can't even
imagine?
really place it in
Yeah,
in my mental timeline for some
like
reason.
the only thing that you remember pretty much from that is Tyrod Taylor getting his lung
I
punctured.
was literally gonna say that's amazing.
And, I mean, there's not much else that you really remember that, you know,
I remember him. I remember this is what I remember. I remember that. That's the first thing I remember is what you just said. The Tyrod Taylor getting his lung puncture, which was sad for Anthony Lynn because that wasn't really his fault. He's not the fucking guy who
yeah,
did it. But and the other thing I remember is me wanting to see Anthony Lynn succeed and being
yeah.
very frustrated at how bad of a head coach he was. Like he just. I
But
remember.
also, but also remember that year he got. Did he lose a playoff game or did he?
No, he made no playoffs. Come on, man. Don't be crazy.
No, or he won 9 games or something like that. He
No,
went.
he had this the reason why I was rooting for him was because I did think that first of all, I thought he did considering the conditions that he was dealing with both with the COVID and with a rookie quarterback that not only was he starting a rookie quarterback that he had to just throw into the fire without having the appropriate like most of the rookie quarterbacks that come into training camp that are
Because
going to be
this was
starters.
pregame, right?
Um,
When Tyrod got his lung punctured, that was.
I think it was the week of. I think it was maybe a day or two before the opening game
Oh, okay.
that Tyrod Taylor was slotted to start. He had gone through the whole training camp as a starter, and then because I feel like I remember getting the news of him and the whole punctured lung situation like at some point over the weekend before that first Sunday. I can't remember if that news came out on Friday, Saturday, maybe even Sunday, but I remember it was like no time. Justin Herbert, rookie, gets thrust into the starting role, and I thought that Anthony Lynn did a really good job in developing Herbert and in being able to find a way to win games with a team that wasn't very good and came into the season with minimal expectations. But there were a lot of times where in like crunch time situations, goal line situations, he had really poor clock management stuff, was really making some kind of bonehead, rookie mistakes that he was obviously not able to overcome. But I don't know. We'll see what happens with this 4-team Hard Knocks. I mean, just do the whole fucking who do the whole league. Why? I mean, why are we stopping at the AFC North? Whose decision was that? I don't know. Weird stuff. But hopefully, I hope that at least can uncover some of what the hell is going on with the Bengals, because I'm very frustrated with the Bengals. I feel like my whole off-season prep coming into this season from a betting standpoint was, so much of it was, I love the opportunity the Bengals have. Like, I was so into the Bengals coming into this year, just from a value standpoint. Not that I necessarily I'm convinced they're going to win the Super Bowl, but just in terms of the schedule they had, where their odds were, getting Burrow back and all that stuff. And I just feel like I'm just looking at, because I can't believe that they haven't gotten this Chase thing done. To me, that just feels...
They're selling used TVs to recoup money for his contract. You didn't see that?
No. What?
Well, the story came out that the Bengals, or the organization, they put up that they're selling the TVs, apparently the ones that were used in all around the stadium. I'm assuming that they went ahead and were replacing them. And they were selling them, $30, $50, $60, $75 each. You had to go pick it up. You had to pay cash, exact change. And the only stipulation is they were working when they were disconnected and taken off. So you're buying as is.
So basically they're crackheads.
I mean, I don't want to say
that. Crackheads. That's what it sounds like.
I don't want to say that, but we know that Mike Brown is a notoriously
what's the deal? I went into
cheap
this.
pincher.
I never dreamed of all the contracts I thought could potentially not get done. I thought the Chase one was the easiest one. If you're not gonna pay Jamar Chase, who the fuck are you gonna pay?
Joe Burrow.
Okay, but for me, the whole Burrow-Chase connection is what they're building everything on top of.
The reason you didn't pay
Higgins, exactly. That's my point. I'm like and Higgins. That's the thing. Higgins did them they owe him more than they even owe Chase, because he did them such a huge favor in not holding out or not holding in, and I'm gonna play under my fucking franchise tag. Nobody wants to do that. He did them such a favor, and I'm like, he's doing them that was what part of what got me high on the Bengals, because I was like, they're not even gonna because we've been talking about this potential T. Higgins contract since fucking 2 years ago about what's gonna happen with the Bengals when he comes up for free agency, who's gonna get him, where's he gonna go, whatever. We've been kind of speculating, kicking around where T. Higgins might end up for a couple of years now, and then for them to kind of not have to worry about that right off the bat from when the offseason began. He made clear he's gonna be a good soldier. I was like, oh shit, man, like maybe the Bengals got something special cooking there. He's gonna, they have like a little last dance kind of a vibe. He's gonna ride this out under the franchise tag. Chase is gonna get his deal done. Burrow's the guy they're building for the future, whatever. And now they're not getting the Chase thing done. And I'm just like, if you're not gonna pay Chase, what are you doing? Like, you're not gonna pay T. Higgins. Chase he's not getting his deal. You brought him in there with a high pick purposely. I assumed to pair pair him with Burrow, who he has this connection with, this long-standing relationship with. What's the problem?
And he's been everything you want when you draft a top 5 wide receiver, prospect. He's it's not like he's not Corey Davis. He's not you know all of these. There's been plenty of wide receivers that have been busts
Yeah.
in the top 10 of the draft, and you literally got
Sammy Watkins rings a bell.
yeah.
I remember when he was going to be the Michael Jordan of receivers. Remember that?
You got whatever you signed. You got whatever you signed up for, plus that. The only thing is, I do understand that he's only been in the league for 3 years. So, I mean, he just got eligible for an extension. I could see that, but at the same time, it's like the price is only going to go up. And if you're
That's the thing.
as cheap as this guy is, this is not like Jerry Jones, where like at the end of it, he's going to play himself because he's going to have to end up paying a higher price. But Jerry Jones, he's just going to pay it, because he's not going to play those games where he's going to be embarrassed by not actually paying the guy, letting him walk. What you're doing is you're just adding a couple million every month to the price tag.
Every time a new Justin Jefferson or Waddle or whoever gets signed, that every time a new receiver signs, that price goes up.
And it's not like you're going to have anybody who's going to overtake his spot in the top 5 to 3, like 3 to 5. That's the area where Jamar Chase is a top 5 receiver, more likely than not in the top 3. So it doesn't matter. Like, there's nobody who's going to overtake Chase at the 3. You know what I'm saying? So, at least right now. So the only thing you're just playing, you're just playing yourself.
Yeah, I don't.
By just, it doesn't make sense whatsoever. Because like, especially
why would you do this so unnecessary?
Yeah, especially after, because Justin Jefferson got his deal last year already. So you already have the parameters. So it's like either match it or give him $1 more than Justin Jefferson, because that's outdated already.
Yeah. Like you said, every month that goes past, that contract is no longer the standard, and the standard is only going up. And why would you want to waste time and end up like, I just feel like I keep seeing this from organization after organization where they're like reluctant to pay guys, and you just end up having to pay more. I mean, this has gone back as far as the Washington, back when they were the Redskins and they didn't want to pay Kirk Cousins, and they end up paying him. They end up giving him more than making him the highest paid quarterback in the league, because they pay him on the franchise tag for multiple years. They end up not securing him, and they've been fucking looking for a quarterback ever since. Like they lost that. They didn't win that in any way conceivable. And I just feel like there's so many teams that they keep on doing the same exercise of, we're gonna play hardball, and it's like, like, you got that these prices are only going up, and why would you want to upset the whole deal? Like, even if you don't give a fuck about Chase, you don't give a fuck about Burrow. Like, you pay Burrow already. Like, he's your guy. Like, you don't want to give him what he needs to be successful. Like, you want to upset your franchise quarterback? Well, what are you doing?
Yeah,
like, that would be like the Chiefs playing hardball with Mahomes' favorite, most important target or something like that. Like, it just doesn't make any sense to me. I don't know, man. I don't get what the Bengals are doing. So I'm very frustrated, because I was really anxious in investing heavily in them for this season, and now I don't even know where I look at them, because as of right now, we're expecting that they're without Jamar Chase week 1, right?
Is that still like where it stands? And we also,
because he's doing a whole game, right?
Yeah, but
like, he's not losing money. Yesterday but he's not playing.
Today was his first practice.
Okay, he practiced today.
Yeah,
because as you can see, I was at the U.S. Open.
Yes.
For anybody wondering why I have on this ridiculous getup, that's why.
Cosplay. Yes. The other thing is, I think I saw that T. Higgins, he didn't practice today with a hamstring injury.
Oh boy.
So I
There
don't
goes
like
the
that.
price going up even more.
Mm-hmm. So gonna have to wait and see a lot of these week one matchups. It's you know, it's one of those two where it's like you don't know where to go and you try to pick the guys that it's a lock, because you've seen them do it before, and then Joe Burrow coming out, off of injury, and because only certain players, like let's say Aaron Rodgers, get held up a question mark with, he's coming off of injury.
Oh, here we go.
Meanwhile, I've heard very little about Kirk Cousins. I've heard very
I've heard
little about
so
Kirk
much
Cousins,
about that's
and
just because you live in this Jets bubble. There's
I've
people have
heard
way more questions about
I've
Kirk
heard
Cousins
almost,
than they do about Rodgers.
I've heard almost nothing about
Because all
Joe
you
Burrow.
listen to is Jets. Plenty of people are
That has
talking about
nothing to do
Kirk.
with it.
Plenty of
That has
people
nothing to do
have been
with it.
having the same questions, if not more,
NYJ fan
about Kirk
forever
Cousins
covers
as they
all the other
have
teams
about
exactly the
the
same.
Aaron Rodgers. There's plenty, and there's plenty of people
Buffalo
that are
Buffalo
questioning.
Jets fans.
Are you going to tell me you haven't heard people questioning Burrow's wrist? Are you really going to say that right now?
Very little. I'm saying how
you're
much.
Full of shit. You're full of shit. You just are extra sensitive to all the fucking Rodgers shit, and you want to act like nobody's talking about injury concerns with Burrow and Cousins. You're not paying attention then.
I don't know.
That's just factually incorrect. I know that you get butthurt when people question the great Aaron Rodgers and his path to taking the Jets to the Super Bowl this season, but there's plenty of conversations taking place questioning Kirk Cousins' availability coming back from the Achilles, and I've heard more conversation than both Rodgers and Cousins about Burrow's ability with this. We've never seen anybody have this wrist injury before. Please, there's been plenty of conversation.
That's because you don't
Joe
only
Burrow's
listen
wrist.
to Jet stuff like me. I mean.
That's because I only listen to Bengals stuff because I was so deeply wanting to be invested in them this fucking offseason, and all I'm hearing every time I fucking pick up my my Cincinnati Gazette, they're just talking about fucking Joe Burrow's wrist injury. It's terrible.
That poor paperboy has to fucking trek back on his mongoose. 700 miles on a mongoose with no gears.
But you know what? All kidding aside, and this I think you'll support me on. If we're being serious about injuries that I feel like are not being talked about as much as as significant, the conversation does not match the significance of the injury. To me, it's Daniel Jones, and maybe that's just because people just assume Daniel Jones is trash, so nobody cares. But
no.
And it's just funny to me because even people who think the Giants aren't going to do shit this year, they don't say it's because Daniel Jones' injuries. They just say it's because they don't believe in Daniel Jones and they don't believe in the team. But Daniel Jones, to me, he has the worst injury of all, and I'm not talking about the knee. I'm talking about that the neck thing that he has had multiple years of issues with that I feel like can flare up at any moment. To me, bro, a neck problem in the NFL is the problem. Like, that's the worst problem to have.
Well, especially that's why I was so I was so turned off. I don't want to say turned off. It's like it raised my eyebrow, when I saw the way that Dable was using him. It almost felt like he wanted to run him into the ground.
He hates him. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So that, but also the style of play that he needs to incorporate into his game for
to be successful. Yeah.
To be successful involves collisions, involves physicality. So I don't know. I just feel like no, you're right. Nobody, because I was thinking about that the other day. I was like, they're like, they need to see if Daniel Jones could put up numbers this year, and I'm like, that's not the only thing in my head, because I'm like, well, nobody kind of really talks about this. Um, and I'm like, he had two pretty serious injuries. And the way that he plays, it's not like, it's not sitting back behind the pocket. On top of that, we're talking about a suspect offensive line that we don't know what we're going to get to begin with anyway. And then we're talking about a player that holds onto the ball a lot, waiting to see what opens up. Or he's going to tuck it and run. And, because especially because the thing was, oh, like he was built as, oh, Brian Dable is going to turn him into Josh Allen. And one of the things that Josh Allen does, holds onto the ball as long as he possibly can, because he has the arm to like wait as long as possible and get it to the guy who's 80 yards down the field. B, he seeks for contact, and he's not afraid to mix it up. And those are two things that Daniel Jones doesn't really do. And it's almost like what they have him doing, because he doesn't. It's not like he picks apart a defense either. He's like kind of waiting to see what opens up. So he's going to be susceptible to big hits as well. So I don't know, man.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just weird to me because like I feel like, and again, maybe it's just because people just are done with Daniel Jones and they just feel like he sucks and it doesn't matter if he's injured or not. But I feel like there's so many spots where the conversation about a team's potential outlook begins with X player returning from injury.
Mm-hmm.
And I just feel like even when the conversation is about Daniel Jones, it's not for whatever reason, it doesn't feel like it's about the injuries. Like
it should be two layers.
Yeah, it's weird. Now, you just said something that reminded me. I have a question for you. Let me simplify the question. Brian Dable, quarterback whisperer, yes or no?
I thought about Brian Dable earlier today because was he the offensive coordinator when Tua and Jalen Hurts were there at Alabama? Because if so, we have to add that. If so, we had to add that onto his resume. If not, doing it with just Josh Allen and it coincidentally kicking off when they traded for Stephon Diggs, it's kind of like a little bit of a demerit in terms of like being able to be slapped with the quarterback whisperer label, because you can't just, if you just whispered into one ear, that's just your wife. You know what I'm saying? Like it's not. You know what I'm saying? It's not like you're not doing this.
If you just fuck your wife, you're not a player.
Yeah, exactly.
Like you don't have game. Like that doesn't mean you have game and you can talk to any ladies. Like
yeah, exactly.
You can fuck your wife 100 times a day. That just means you're fucking your wife.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you have sex with her.
All right, let's see. Brian Dable's resume here. I don't think so. I don't think he gets Tua or Jalen Hurts because he was offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach with Alabama for 1 year in 2017. He was with the Bills from 18 to 21. He was with the Patriots from 2013 to 2016. And I just feel like, for me, quarterback whisperer, it's not, at least for me, I feel like it's either you are or you aren't. And to me, once there's a quarterback who you can't whisper to, then I feel like, to me, it's the label.
Yeah.
And also, I feel like a lot of, at least from my perspective, I feel like a lot of, most of Brian Dable's quarterback whisper reputation is based off of Josh Allen. But I feel like he started getting quarterback whisperer when people were starting to get hot on Mitch Trubisky when he went there to be the backup.
Yeah.
That was when I first started to hear Brian Dable quarterback whisper. I feel like for whatever reason, again, maybe this is just through my lens, but I feel like I remember Brian Dable quarterback whisperer entering the conversation around the same time that I was hearing the Mitch Trubisky revival when they were like, "Oh, the
Which
Giants are going to
lasted,
sign him," and
which lasted for one
he ends
year.
up going to the Steelers. He was going to be the starter. He had been fixed, and they were going to get all of this out of him. He sucks. He was garbage. He didn't whatever it is that he was allegedly. He had allegedly corrected. It was the same Mitch Trubisky we've always seen. And also, even the whole Mitch Trubisky hype train was based off of him being a backup. It wasn't even like it wasn't like Josh Allen got hurt and Mitch Trubisky went on some 5-0
No, he
run as a
played. No,
backup.
he played the last. I think he played the last game of the year or something like that, or
Yeah,
it
I
was
think you're
one
right. I think it was
when
something like
he
that.
looked
Like some
decent in one game.
Yeah, I feel like it was like, so I think that it might have been I don't know why, but I feel like it might have been a Patriots game. I feel like they might
Yeah,
have had the Patriots in a Week 17 game that
yeah,
they won, and Mitch Trubisky started, and it was like it was a game that they didn't need to win clearly,
yeah.
and all of a sudden Mitch Trubisky's the next thing, but. I don't know. I was having a conversation with Word Life, and he had mentioned Brian Dable, quarterback whisperer, and I was like, is he really quarterback whisperer? And there was a little bit, and not that he was saying that he's convinced that he is, but I don't know. I don't see him as quarterback whisperer just based off of what I've seen with because to me there's a difference between a good offensive coordinator, good offensive schemer, and quarterback whisperer.
Mm-hmm.
Even the year that he had Daniel Jones have, his most successful year as a starter, they go to the playoffs, they win a road playoff game. That was not quarterback whisper. That was good defense and, good competent offense, but it wasn't
Yeah,
like Daniel Jones had some fucking all-pro year. Like he had a
yeah,
good year for Daniel Jones. I thought he was good, and you know, I thought that what he was able to do incorporating his running game into the situation was good, but it wasn't like he had him slinging the ball all over the place. Quarterback whisper. Like to me, I need to if that whole playoff season would have been on the back of Daniel Jones throwing 35 touchdowns, then you
mm-hmm.
can give me quarterback whisper. But you turn the quarterback into a running back. That's not quarterback whisper. Like
Yeah.
if you have success
Nigga,
that
you're
way,
the
that's
you're
great.
the
Good for
army
you.
coach.
Offensive genius, offensive guru. Like, I'll give you all of those accolades, but quarterback whisperer, nah, not for me. But
No.
anyhow, we shall see what happens. Speaking of the Giants' last playoff win was up against the team that they're starting the season off with this year, which I thought was a little bit of an interesting narrative when I was looking at the game and thinking about if it was going to be one of my 3 against the spread picks this week. I was looking at that game and I was like, this is a little bit of a revenge game for old Kevin O'Connell, right? Is he O'Connell or is he
LC.
O'Donnell? I know
Oh,
it's Aiden O'Connell, right? I don't know,
yeah.
man. These motherfuckers,
Never
they should
know.
just uniformly decide
Yeah.
on one. But anyway, I thought that was that I feel like is a more interesting game the more I look into it. But you know what? That's enough for today. Let's just go watch the rest of the opening game of the season. We will have
Football is
picks.
back, baby.
Football is back. Word Life wasn't here, so we're going to put the picks off until tomorrow. We will have a full opening week pick section, new and improved. We're going to change. We already mentioned some of the scoring changes. We're still going to do the touchdown point prop, and we're going to introduce another little wrinkle that you'll have to stay tuned for. And you'll also have to stay tuned for the box. I thought about doing the box picks now, but I feel like we have a standing tradition of us all making our picks first and then kind of, I don't want the box's picks to influence you to have me
Exactly.
second guessing. I feel like we had a good thing going where we would make our picks and then the box would kind of confirm or deny them, which I feel like we should maintain that this season. So there'll be
The
no
integrity
box
of
picks
the
here.
box.
Exactly. No box picks here. That'll be tomorrow. But until then, football is back. Let's go parlays. Let's get this money. I mean, I don't want to go as crazy as say let's go Chiefs like I'm a Chiefs fan, but let's go Chiefs for the sake of the money line leg in the parlay. Until
And
next
I already
week.
got the Xavier Worthy touchdown. So
yes, you got. I mean, you got one of your legs. I got one of my legs.
no, that was a standalone. So I'm good with
Oh,
that.
the standalone, beautiful, nice, excellent. I saw that. Do you have him on any of your fantasy teams? I don't remember.
I think I
I know
may.
I have Rasheed Rice, so that didn't work out quite well for me. But
Well, he looked good though.
Well, he
Throwing
looked good
darts
when
up.
he was running from that burning car a couple months ago. Or?
Yeah, well, I got a good look at him.
He looked as good as you could look running from a crime scene. All right. Well, until next. Well.